Investigation. Fact-finding. That's what I'm in Draft League City for. Now, I may not be Max Striker with all his resources and skills, but I'm Dan fucking Sparce, and I've got some skills of my own. Here's what I knew. Coaches were disappearing, and whoever was behind it was definitely up to something big. That much was clear. Now, Fist was the most likely candidate, so that's where I started my search. And while Shroomraver was busy with his quarterfinals match prep, and Striker was focused on the here and now, I knew that to find the answers, sometimes you gotta take a few steps back before you can move forward. I started out looking for places in the city that would be large and remote enough to house prisoners. Not much to go on there. This place was a maze even when it wasn't in the aftermath of a power struggle. But part of my job was always narrowing down the angles. I decided to cross-reference the locations with the rumours of Fist's movements. The docks were where he usually hung out, and there were a few places there where I might be able to unearth some answers. But I had a hunch. I decided to take a look back to years gone by, see if I could find a link to what was happening now. With the way the city had fallen into chaos, and with coaches going missing, knowing that the perpetrator must have a plan, I was sure it had something to do with battling. Now, I'm no fighter, but underground tournaments weren't exactly an alien concept. There were a few historically that fit the bill, but I'd need hard evidence to make a case. After Shroomraver had walked into Fist's headquarters by the docks, it looked like he'd mostly abandoned the place, uprooted his operation somewhere else. And after a while, I found some of his locations. Warehouses, storage units and the like. I didn't know what I was expecting, but I'll tell you one thing right now.
Oh my god.
It sure as shit wasn't this. Hello everyone, Shroomraver here, and today it is time for the playoffs. Yes indeed, we have made it to the playoffs of the MBC, and today we are going to be going up in our effective quarterfinal match against SixftHax and the Carolina Haxorus. Links down in the description below, make sure you check them out. In the last season of PPL, I got to play people like Joey and Seabad, and I put Leo, SixftHax, in the same category as them. He is a legend of the scene. He's been doing this a long time. He is someone who I've been watching content of for years. Big fan of his work. He's a good guy. And I'm really stoked to finally, after all this time, get the opportunity to play against him. His team is super spooky. He has been on, well, he didn't have a great start to the season, but then he switched things up in his team and he's been on this massive redemption arc. And absolutely been killing it with Deoxys-S, Ting-Lu, Iron Boulder, Jirachi, Urshifu Rapid Strike, Tentacruel, Incineroar, Sinister, Rotom Fan, and Morgrem. He's got 3 Terra Captains, the Iron Boulder, the Rotom, and the Morgrem. Yeah, it's a pretty spooky team. Since he brought in Iron Boulder and switched things up and made it a Terra Captain, he's been killing it. So, a lot of threats that we have to deal with here. And we're going to be starting out with, for our team, Adamant, Choice Banded, Iron Valiant. With Close Combat, Spirit Break, Knockoff, and Shadow Sneak. Adamant max speed allows us to outpace those base 100s, the Jirachi, the Tentacruel. Outside of a dedicated physical set on the likes of Rotom Fan, Tentacruel, and the Deoxys, ignoring the Sinister because of the immunity, Close Combat 2 it goes everything. He has very little that actively wants to switch in on it. And if he's bringing Sinister and we can predict that and going for the knockoff, outside again of physically defensive Colbert, that's doing like 70% 2-hit KOing, or something else is losing its item. This thing puts a huge amount of pressure on his team once I can weaken down those potential answers to fighting. Helping with that and to get Iron Valiant in, we have a lead Eject Pack Raging Bolt with Draco Meteor, Thunderbolt, Thunderclap, and Snarl. We're very mixed defensive. We have enough speed on there. I think it's for maybe the Sinister or like an invested Incineroar. Yeah, Eject Pack Draco Meteor, the consummate switch into Raging Bolt will always be Ting-Lu. So if I can get an Eject Pack Draco Meteor off onto that and then bring in Iron Valiant hard, something's taking a big hit, and that's what we're hoping Raging Bolt will be able to kind of do. With its mixed defenses, it's also one of the best things to take on those mons where you don't quite know what it's going to do until it's doing it. The Deoxys Speed, the Jirachi, stuff like that. Then we have one of the really interesting sets here. This is physically defensive Mirror Herb Blastoise. Near max HP, max defense, Impish, Aqua Jet, Zen Headbutt, Rapid Spin, and Endure. So that's what's it called? The Iron Boulder. Leo's been using it incredibly well, especially just that very classic booster speed Swords Dance set. So if Iron Boulder comes in and is looking to set up a Swords Dance, we can go into Blastoise here, get that Mirror Herb, and unless he's packing a resistant to water Terra, in Torrent, if we can endure down, that's doing like 85% with Aqua Jet. I am expecting Terra Ground on this, just because it goes pretty hard into me. The backup options to that are Fairy and Fighting. Any of them could be an option, but Terra Ground seems the most likely with my weakness and especially Petra potentially running around for me. Rapid Spin, just get rid of those hazards. He has a Ting-Lu, much like myself, a Jirachi, a Deoxys, they can all do nasty hazard things. Zen Headbutt is good coverage for the likes of the Urshifu Rapid Strike and the Tentacruel should those show up. Next up, I'm anticipating the Ting-Lu on the other side. We're going to be bringing ours. Chopper Berry Ting-Lu here, max physical defense, some HP, quite a speedy one here, 128 into speed, Ruination, Earthquake, Whirlwind, Spikes. Chopper Berry Ting-Lu can take on stuff like his own Ting-Lu, indeed the Iron Boulder as well, and a few other things, to name a few. Chopper will help us take rogue close combats or superpowers, and hopefully we can get set up some spikes and get some Whirlwind action to put more things in range of that Iron Val. Then we have another experimental member. This is Clear Amulet Terra Grass Glastria. We have 132 attack, 136 into HP, near max speed on this guy. We have Icicle Crash, Trailblaze, High Horsepower, and Swords Dance. So Terra Grass is an interesting one. It's at least nice to resist the Surging Strikes on that Shifu. But also that kind of Mamoswine coverage that's commonly very good, Ice plus Ground, with Grass on there as well, that actually does pretty decently. And at +2 speed, which we can get to with Glastria's bulk, we're outspeeding those base hundreds. And it forces in some of his quicker stuff to reveal their sets if we can get those setups going. Glastria can break quite freely here, especially with the Clear Amulet, meaning that my attack boost can't be managed by Intimidate, Parting Shot, Incineroar, nor the likes of Yachi Berry, physically defensive, Strength Sap, Sinister, if that's what he wants to go with. Final member of our team is going to be a Citrus Berry, Fizz Def, Speedy Brambleghast. Coming in with Power Whip, Shadow Sneak, Leech Seed, and Protect. This is one of the few things that can realistically try and take on the Urshifu if it wants to start doing nasty things. Incineroar is a very good switch into this guy, so we have Leech Seed to get some chip damage, Protect to wrap that up as much as possible and scout what he wants to do. So yeah, that's the team we're going to be running with. Let's get into the team battle screen thing and see what Leo has decided to bring against us. So, as you can see, Leo has decided to bring Iron Boulder, Ting-Lu, Urshifu Rapid Strike, Tentacle, Jirachi, and Deoxys. It's just a top 6 situation. No Sinister is huge. I'm really happy to not see that. That really frees up Iron Val's close combat. It is indeed a Terra Ground Iron Boulder, as we were kind of anticipating. But especially seeing no Sinister, I'm really happy to try and get things going with big damage as early as possible. So I'm going to lead with Raging Bolt, and probably just click Draco straight off the bat and see where we can go from there. So, here we go, MBC Season 2 quarterfinal against Leo, aka SixftHax, and the Carolina Haxorus. He is going to lead off with the Tentacruel, as I'm going to go with my Raging Bolt. This is a wonderful lead for me. I'm really happy with this. I could very easily just go for Thunderbolt and get some big damage. There's a few risks that I have to take into account there. We could be looking at a Mirror Coat lead. I have led with Raging Bolt in the past. Or we could see the Ting-Lu switch, which is usually fairly safe. What I'm going to do is just go for the Draco Meteor. If I go first, then I can just eject pack into my Ting-Lu to take a potential Mirror Coat. We should be able to tank any damage from it if it's going for us, and then we can get some slow initiative depending on his spread. So he's going to stay in and go for Ice Beam, actually. That's going to do a nominal amount to Raging Bolt. I'm just going to go for the Draco Meteor, and as you'll see, that takes him to below half of his health, which is interesting, and then we see a Citrus Berry to take him back to around about 70-odd%. This gives us a lot of information as our eject pack goes off. He's not specially defensive, that's for darn sure. He doesn't have a lot of HP investment. And the damage he's done to us means he doesn't actually have all that much in special attack. This is telling me physically defensive with speed investment. For that reason, Iron Valiant is not an option here. He will take the close combat and he will take us out with any kind of poison stab move he goes for. My best option here is actually to go into my Glastrier and start trying to break super early, because I don't think there's a whole huge amount he's going to be able to do to us. So with that in mind, as you'll see, I'm hovering over Hidalgo here, and that is what I'm going to choose to go into and start seeing if we can't start breaking the counters to Iron Valiant as early as possible. So, in comes Glastrier, and honestly, given what I've learned about his spreads, I'm not fearing too much in the way of damage. I'm certainly not going to Terra. He's shown Ice Beam, he's bound to have Sludge Bomb or Sludge Wave, something like that. What I'm going to do is be pretty ballsy early on. I'm going to stay in, not Terra, and I'm just going to click Swords Dance. So, in comes the Sludge Bomb. That is going to do less than 100 damage by a long shot, and we're just going to go for Swords Dance. So now Glastrier is sitting at +2 attack and has taken very little. Now, I could just go for high horsepower here and try and clean out this Tentacle, but what I'm actually going to do is start setting up Trailblazers and get my speed going, and there's a very good reason for doing that, because I want to lure in his faster stuff once I've inevitably, looking at the damage we're doing, taken out this Tentacle. Here comes Acid Spray, which I wasn't expecting, but because of the Clear Amulet, we're not going to lose any special defense, and that Trailblaze, excuse me, is going to do a whole heaping amount of damage. I'm really happy with this scenario. I can just go for another Trailblaze and take out Tentacle. In comes Sludge Bomb. Unfortunately for me, he is going to get the poison. Now that is going to put Glastrier on a bit of a timer, so we got to do as much damage as we can right now. Trailblaze is going to come in, and that is going to put Glastrier at +2 speed and +3 attack because of Chilling Neigh, taking down Tentacle. Now, could I have just gone for high horsepower? Yes, absolutely. But what I want to do here, as I say, is lure in his speedsters. I'm at +2 speed. He must know that I have significant speed investment. What this does is lure in either the Iron Boulder or the Deoxys. Now, normally he likes to endgame Boulder, so this Deoxys coming in right now is what I was anticipating. By luring this in, I can try and take care of another answer to Iron Valiant, and there is every chance that with my natural bulk on Glastrier, I'll be living a hit from an unboosted Deoxys speed. So what I'm going to do is go for my Terra here, just in case he wants to go for Superpower, because if he is especially offensive attacker with Superpower coverage, that won't kill me once I Terra. So I'm going to Terra up, go for Trailblaze, try and tank a hit, and get another KO early game. So, here comes the Terra on Glastrier, and as I say, depending on what this Deoxys goes for, there's every chance we'll be living this hit, especially if he predicts a switch out on our side. So, there is the Terra Grass Glastrier, and Deoxys is going to go for Grass Knot. That is going to do so very little damage, possibly predicting the switch into Ting-Lu. But that's not happening. We're going to stay in, go for that Terra Grass Trailblaze, and that is going to completely one-shot the Deoxys. I can guarantee you that crit did not matter in the slightest. That was a Terra Grass Trailblaze at +3 attack, which is now +4. But this is what I wanted, because Deoxys speed is a very decent check, and possibly even a counter, to Iron Valiant. And now, two very good answers to my Val are gone. This is what I wanted. And now, unless he has booster speed on that Iron Boulder, we're probably claiming another kill here. So now in does come that Iron Boulder. We do see that it is a booster energy set, and we see that it is for speed. This was forced. He had to do this. I outspeed everything on his team now, except for this specific set. So we forced it in, which is good. Eventually, he's probably going to have to switch it out again, because we're staying in. He can't afford to set up a Swords Dance here. Normally, on this thing coming in, I'd be going to my Blastoise, but he's not going for Swords Dance. He cannot afford to. If he sets up, he dies. So I'm just going to go in, go for Trailblaze. The Earthquake is going to be what he goes for. That's fair. It will take out Glastrier, but Glastrier has gone 2 for 1. It has done the work, and very importantly, it's taken out two very crucial answers to my Iron Valiant. So, I'm going to go into Bramblegast right about now. He is essentially kind of forced out here. It seems very unlikely he has coverage on this Iron Boulder to one-shot a Bramblegast from here. But I'm in a position where I don't really have to over-predict. I can just go for power. The Jirachi switch is fairly obvious, but SixftHax Leo, he's on the back foot. And it might be that he feels the need to make a play here. So I'm just going to click Power Whip. If he stays in, this is very likely going to KO him. But he knows which way the wind is blowing, and he knows he needs this guy to endgame. So he's going to get out of there with Iron Boulder, and it is indeed going to be that Jirachi that comes in. We're going to go for Power Whip. Are unfortunately going to miss. Now, unfortunate, it wouldn't have done a whole lot of damage, but it might have given us an inkling as to the defensive spread on the set. However, once again, I don't fear being O-code, so I'm just going to stay in here, go for Leech Seed, and start trying to get some residual damage onto this Rachi. Now, the Rachi is going to go for Reflect. That's a bit of a problem. I am going to go for the Leech Seed, and we are going to land it, which is nice. But screens are a problem, because they are really going to try and enable some of Leo's big heavy hitters, the Iron Boulder and the Urshifu. I don't really want to be staying in with Manas here. It is much more of a defensive build. It could be a little bit passive, especially against this Rachi with a Reflect up. So what I'm going to do is make the play into my Raging Bolt to try and start getting some hits off in case he doesn't pack the Light Screen. Now, Leo's going to make a very nice play here. It was effectively kind of safe-ish middle. He's going to go into his Ting-Lu as I am switching out and making a play of my own into my Raging Bolt. This is an excellent play on Leo's part. It gets his Dark type in against my Ghost, but it also gets his Ground type in against my Electric. I can't stay in here. I have to get on out of there. Now, considering going into Blastoise, but realistically speaking, Blastoise can't do anything to a full health Ting-Lu behind a Reflect. What I'm going to therefore do is make the mirror match happen. I'm going to go into my own Ting-Lu here and try and scout out what his set is against me. So, gonna pull Raging Bolt on back there, and I am going to go into Moose Bolton. So, we do have a Ting-Lu off, which is cool. Vested Ruin goes off, that's not going to matter. He is going to go for Throat Chop, I guess, predicting the switch back into my Bramblegast on the Earthquake. But I'm fine with it. He's not doing any damage to me whatsoever. And at this point, I am going to try and get up a layer of spikes on him. I have hefty speed investment. I'm fairly confident I'll be outrunning him. And as you'll see, he doesn't like the matchup. He's going to get his Ting-Lu on out of there, and he's going to make the offensive play into the Urshifu as I get up a layer of spikes. Now, Urshifu is behind a Reflect. This is potentially very dangerous. He could be looking to set up. But I have a Chople Berry, so even if he just raw close combat, we will be taking that hit with the berry and our defense investment. So what I'm going to do is go for Whirlwind here. If he goes for close combat, we take it and get him out of there. If he tries to set up a sub or a bulk up or an SD, we'll be getting him out of there as well. Now, not fearing any damage I can do to him behind a Reflect, the Urshifu is going to go for that Swords Dance, but I am having none of it. I'm just going to click Whirlwind, get him on out of there, and hopefully try and deal with him later once those screens are gone. So the Whirlwind goes off, we have a Spike up, and now in comes the Iron Boulder. But once again, I don't overly fear what he's going to do to me. with a Chople Berry, if he's that jolly set, which given he was boosted speed, he's looking like he has to be, an unboosted close combat doesn't actually 2-hit Chaos from this range. We can take one and then another. So what I'm going to do is look for some unresisted residual damage that the Reflect can't stop. So I'm predicting the Swords Dance or the Close Combat more likely. Going to go for Ruination and try and take him down by half, put him properly in range of a bunch of my other threats. So, Leo is indeed going to Terror that Iron Boulder right about now. No real reason not to. It also protects him from a Throat Chop of my own, which of course I'm not carrying. So, there is that dangerous Terror Ground Iron Boulder. He's going to go for the Close Combat, but of course we have our Berry. That means it's going to do nothing to us, and he gets the defense drops, which is nice. Doesn't really matter here because, as I say, I'm going for Ruination, just hoping that we can hit it, and we do. Ruination going to come in, and that is going to take him down by half. He is under half health and very much in range of a bunch of my mons. At this point, I am going to go for the Whirlwind. He might try and set up, get a bit cocky, thinking that we can go for an attack now that he's at -1. No point in me doing that. I am just going to Whirlwind him out of there. If he goes to close combat, we will take another. We're designed to be able to take 2 close combats from this guy. Again, I consider my Blastoise, but really, given that I've shown Whirlwind, I don't expect him to be setting up overly here. So I am just going to go for the Whirlwind and try and get some residual spikes damage on a bunch of mons. Now, he's going to switch out of there with the Iron Boulder. And looking to take advantage of my lack of Chople Berry, he is going to go back into his Urshifu, take a bit of spikes damage, but once again, I am having none of it. I'm going to go for the Whirlwind, get that Urshifu out of there, and just try and stop it from doing anything for as long as possible. So we've circumvented that threat coming in, and now in comes the Rachi. This is kind of what I wanted to see, because I want to scout out what the rest of its moves are. He could be Dual Screens. Dual Screens Wish, Future Sight, or rather Doom Desire might be a bit of an issue for me. But either way, I am just going to try and set up another spike, expecting him to just want to go for those screens. Now he's not going to go for screens, he wants a bit of chip damage. Ice Punch is going to freeze me, and that stopped me dead in my tracks. That is a huge problem. Ting-Lu is so good against most of the rest of Leo's team. That freeze, even though we were in such a commanding position up until this moment, has set us back massively. Because now he is free to get those screens up if I want to stay in and try and thaw out. And that is not a risk I can take with him being a screens Rachi. I have to be proactive here and fight on with one of my better mons into his team, effectively crippled. So what I'm going to do is predict the Reflect coming in here, and I'm going to go into my Raging Bolt to try and get some proactive damage onto him. So, gonna pull my Ting-Lu back, unfortunately, and go into my Raging Bolt here, still at a good amount of health, as in comes the Reflect. Now, he's going to be a bulky set. I'm fully not expecting him to be very invested in attack, so an Ice Punch won't be doing much. At this point, I just have to go for the most damage I can onto Rachi. Thunderbolt actually does more than Snarl ever will, so that's the move I'm going to go for. Try and at least take this thing down by, 25% maybe. If I can get it under half, he'll be forced to reveal Wish if he has it. So that's kind of what I'm going for here, trying to manage this Rachi and keep it at that manageable range of health. Get rid of those screens as soon as I can. Well, it's not going to be soon, but try and stall out those screens. Keep this Rachi at a range of health where Iron Val's close combat will be able to do the damage. So, Rachi is going to go for the light screen here. He really has no reason not to. Thunderbolt is going to come in, and as you'll see, it's going to take him down by like 15-20%. He's still not under half, which is a problem. At this point, I kind of just have to keep spamming my attacks against him. Again, I want to try and force him into this position where if he has Wish, he's going to reveal it. So I'm going to click Thunderbolt again, try and take him down under half, and go from there. At this point though, Leo is going to pull that switch. He is going to get out of there with the Rachi, kind of implying he might not have the Wish. But he's going to go into the Ting-Lu, take a bit of spikes damage, that's fine. Thunderbolt, of course, is going to go off and do absolutely nothing because of that immunity. Now, where do we go from here? There is nothing I can do to this guy. There is a light screen up, and I don't have my eject pack. So what I'm going to do is go into my Brambleghast, expecting the Earthquake to come in for him to just want to take me out here and now. Brambleghast at the very least will take that hit. It might not take it amazingly, and as you'll see, the Earthquake is going to come in and do quite a decent chunk. Now this absolutely puts me in range of Throat Chop, which he's shown to already have. But what Brambleghast can do here at the very least is stall out a turn of screens. That's going to become potentially very important. I cannot have those screens consistently going up. They stand in the way of far too many of my mons. Especially with my big setup mon Glastria already gone. So what I'm going to do, click Protect, stall out a turn of screens, and try and get some damage with Power Whip on the next turn. At the very least with my Infiltrator, that will go through the Reflect. So, I'm going to reveal my Protect here as the Ting-Lu is just going to go for that Throat Chop. That's fine. We stall out a turn of screens, and that's one of the most important things we can do. Right now, I am just going to try and get chip damage onto this guy. If there's no Wish on the Rachi and he is, for example, Assault Vest, he's not going to be getting any health back. Power Whip through the Reflect is going to be looking to do around 45-ish%. And honestly, that is damage I will take. Getting him down to 50% is going to be potentially very crucial for Iron Valiant in the endgame. So, going to go for the Power Whip, and that is going to score a big old crit. That is huge. A little bit of payback for the freeze that happened to me. Throat Chop, of course, is going to come in and take out my Brambleghast, but that crit has very much negated any threat that this Ting-Lu might be facing. At this point, I have no reason not to just go into Iron Valiant and start clicking buttons. That, as I say, is what I'm going to do. Now, the Reflect may very well be up, but this is Adamant Choice Banded Iron Valiant, and given that the Tentacle is gone, the Deoxys is gone, we have a layer of spikes up and there is no Sinister, there is nothing that wants to take this hit. Realistically, the best play on my opponent's side is to just stay in with the Ting-Lu and let it go and see what I want to do. And that is the play he's going to choose to make. No reason really to try and save the Ting-Lu from here. Iron Val going to take off the last bits of health through the Reflect and get rid of the Ting-Lu. That's big, so we're back up 4-3, but we have our own Ting-Lu frozen, and this is not looking as good as it was early game. So now back in comes the Urshifu. Now if it wasn't for the Reflect, I would be happy to stay in here and click Close Combat as many times as my little heart desired. But as you'll see, there is still that one last turn of Reflect and two more of Light Screen. So I don't want to stay in with Iron Valiant. I'm going to need it to hit hard when those screens are gone, and that time is coming. Now, he has shown that he has Swords Dance. So what I'm going to do is this time make the play into my Blastoise to try and catch him, get that Mirror Herb, and then try and get a big +2 Zen Headbutt off, potentially as he goes for a close combat and lowers his own defense. So that is the play I'm going to make. Get out of there with Iron Valiant, don't want to be staying in. And as I say, I am going to let Blastoise hit the field for the first time, as in comes the Surging Strikes. Now, that is doing not very much. We knew it wouldn't because I'm very physically defensive, but even so, it's not doing as much as I thought it would. So not only is he possibly not Adamant, he's definitely not Banded, and he's not Punching Glove either, which is pretty big. He could be Scarfed, but I don't really see that as the option, especially since he showed Swords Dance, so that's a non-entity. However, with him not having set up a Swords Dance, and with Urshifu's naturally good physical bulk, there's actually not much Blastoise can do even with a Zen Headbutt. And if he's, for example, Weakness Policy, that's going to be a problem. So, my play here is actually to get out of there and go into my Raging Bolt, knowing that the Light Screen is going to go down next turn, and that might force him out enough to get me some momentum back into this game. So I'm going to get out there with Blastoise. Another reason for this is that he might want to save the Urshifu and go into Rachi to get those screens back up. This goes some way to stopping that from happening, but Leo's just going to stay in and click Close Combat. Going into Raging Bolt there, as I say, would put much more pressure on the Rachi than Blastoise ever could. And now the Light Screen is gone, and now we have to play this game. Is he going to save the bear and go into the Rachi, or is he going to try and take out my Raging Bolt? That brings Thunderclap Mind Games into the equation. I'm actually just going to go for Thunderbolt, predicting him to want to save this guy, or go for Swords Dance, predicting my Thunderclap. And he does neither of those things. He is going to fling a big nugget at me. Really cool tech on his part. We love a bit of fling big nugget. That was there obviously for the Peturant if I brought it. Big risk on his part to go for that when I could have thunderclapped. Over prediction on my part, not going for it. Really should have done. Puts me in a bit of a rough position, but he is now at -1 defense from the close combat. And he doesn't have a reflect up. So now I really kind of have to go into that Blastoise. Bit of a misplay on my part doing this. It is what I'm going to do. What I really ought to have done here was go into my Iron Valiant once again and click close combat. That would have been my much better play with him at -1 and no reflect up. But what I'm going to do here is go into my Blastoise and click Zen Headbutt, hoping to try and catch him SDing on me. So, Blastoise is going to hit the field once again. Like I say, I'm just going to lock in on Zen Headbutt and hope we can do enough damage to him. Now he's going to go for close combat here, not the Swords Dance. That takes us into Torrent range, which is super nice. And he's now at -2 defense. We're going to go for Zen Headbutt, going to hit it, and that is going to do so close to being enough. But at this point, I am going to be able to take him out with an Aqua Jet. He doesn't necessarily know that I have this yet. We are in Torrent, he's at -2, this will be taking him out from here. He might just want to go for the close combat again and pick up his kill, but an Aqua Jet is going to take out this Shifu, resistance or no. And there it is, Aqua Jet going to come in, and that's going to take out the Shifu. That's really nice, a big threat has been neutralized on his side of the field. However, there is one ever-present threat left, and there is also this guy, the Jirachi. This is what I was trying to prevent as much as possible, was him going for screens again. And here, I'm going to make a rookie mistake. In my calcs, I was seeing how much a +2 Zen Headbutt would have done if it had gone for Swords Dance. I have not taken that off my calc, so I'm looking at Aqua Jet thinking, oh, that's a 2-hit KO from there, easily. It's not. I am going to go for the Aqua Jet, however, and try and pick up my big damage on this Rachi before it can get a reflect up. So here comes the Aqua Jet, and as you'll see, it does nothing to this guy. He is in fact going to go for the light screen, anticipating maybe a mixed set with Torrent. But now we are in problem areas, because he can get up a reflect on the next turn, and with both screens up, the Iron Boulder becomes a problem. So what I'm going to have to do now is make quite a ballsy play, and hope that his last move isn't like Psychic. What I'm going to do here is hard switch out into my Iron Valiant, predicting the reflect. So, it's ballsy playtime. We're going to get out of there with the Blastoise. We are going to go into our Iron Valiant, predicting the reflect, and there it is. That is great, because he's clearly light screen. No matter if he's at reflect up or not, a knockoff will kill him. And now, we have to look towards the end game and what can realistically take out the Iron Boulder from where it is. I can't go for close combat if I want to stay in here, because at -1 on my defense, he will kill me with any move he goes for. If I'm not at -1 defense, I have a very good chance to live any given move, including a Terra Ground Earthquake. So what I'm going to do is go for knockoff, take out the Rachi, and see where we go from there. So in comes the knockoff, even through the reflect. That is of course going to take out the Jirachi from there. Down it goes. Iron Val picks up its second KO of the game. Now it's 3v1. But one of mine is frozen, and Leo's one is this guy. That ever-present threat, the Iron Boulder. Now, he is at a fairly low range of health. My best play here is to go into my Ting-Lu and sack it so that I can get 2 priority hits off onto him. My worry was that he might be packing the Swords Dance and that his last move might be Quick Attack. That could be problematic. What I'm actually going to do here is bank on him just going for the Terra Ground Earthquake for as much damage as possible, go for the knockoff, take my chip damage, and hopefully finish him off with Blastoise. And then he goes for Zen Headbutt, which I forgot about, but we live just with 7 hit points left. That knockoff is all the damage we need. I can let Iron Valiant go down now. It has done a fine job in this game, but I can let Iron Valiant go down because reflect or no, he is very much in range of Blastoise's Aqua Jet. So, Leo's just going to go for that Terra Ground Earthquake. Fair enough, doesn't want to miss a Zen Headbutt, makes sense. Iron Valiant is of course going to go down here, but that is fine. With any luck, he should be very much in range of my Aqua Jet, and whether or not he has Quick Attack over Swords Dance, he won't be taking me out from this range, surely. So, I'm going to go for Aqua Jet, and hope that I've done my calculations right, hope that it is enough to take him out from this range. So here comes the Aqua Jet, and it is enough to take it out. Down goes that very dangerous Terra Ground Iron Boulder. Blastoise picking up the final kill, and that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be the game. Whew. What a game it was. Incredibly close. Just a real roller coaster, that one. We had a great start to it. I think that game, for Leo, I think it kind of maybe acted as a microcosm for his season as a whole. You know, it started rough, but he clawed and scraped and fought and battled his way back into it. Took his chances where they came and put up just an amazing season and fight in this one. You know, that freeze was really bad. It put me in a really rough position when I felt I was in a quite commanding one. And I certainly misplayed at the end there. What I should have absolutely done was tried to sack Ting-Lu and kind of banked on him not having Quick Attack and Swords Dance. That was really the play, because in order to properly guarantee that endgame KOs, I needed both forms of priority. That Zen Headbutt was a low roll. He had a 56% chance to OHKO me there, and with the Reflect Up, it wasn't a guarantee as to whether the Aqua Jet would take him out, I don't think. It was close, and it would have been very close. But that is the way things go. I know that there are things Leo has told me he would have done differently in that game. I know that he's not 100% happy with his performance. I think he played a blinder, you know. He had a rough start, and he fought his way back in very well. He made some good plays and took advantage of the positions he put himself in. So, great game to Leo, an absolute pleasure to play against him. His links down in the description below. Make sure you check them out. He has been doing this a very long time. He is a good dude, and you should absolutely be checking out all of his content, along with everyone else in the league. Make sure you do that too. What that means is that we have reached the semi-finals of the MBC. I know who I'm going against, and this is going to be a spoiler for the other quarterfinal game that dictated where I go from here. Next week, it's a grudge match. We're taking on Fist again. I'm not sure how I feel about it, but that is the way the cards have fallen. We'll be taking on Fist once again in a grudge match for the ages, for the future of the city, and for my own honour and pride, and that of Rufflet, of course. So keep an eye out for that one. It is going to be an absolute blinder, I am sure. Once again, make sure to check out my man Leo, 6ft Links in the description. We move on. Can we make it all the way this time? Only time will tell. But I'm getting it out of here. I've rambled far too long, so my final thank you to you all for watching. And I guess with that, I will see you next time. Laters.